Sudo. How many of you have been to a Google Sudo event before? Just curious. Oh, quite a few of you, okay. For those of you that haven't been to a Sudo event before, so Sudo, to the uninitiated, is the Unix command that grants you super user access on your machine. So Google Sudo is an event that we hope will grant you some of the privileges of, some of the super user privileges of entrepreneurial success. At least that's our hope. Tonight, I have Jen George, the founder and CEO of OneShift, and I'd like to hand it over to Jen to briefly introduce yourself before we get into Q&A. So, Jen, over to you.
Thanks for having me. My name's Jen. I'm 23, in a startup called OneShift. It's a jobs network that basically matches employees and employers instantly. We've got over 300,000 job seekers in Australia and 35,000 businesses. We've also recently launched in New Zealand, and we've got about 500 businesses and 3,500 job seekers, and we're soon to launch in the States. So we've got about 30 to 40 members in our team, in Sydney office, actually, just in Sussex Street, so not far away. And yeah, really excited to be here.
Excited to have you too. So what Jen didn't say is she's done this in just 2 years, which is nothing short of phenomenal. So I'd like to start with what inspired you to create your company, OneShift?
Yeah, definitely. Well, basically I was on a working holiday, and in this situation myself where I actually couldn't find casual part-time work to keep me going, I was offered a job in a month's time in Europe and on a super yacht. And basically over there you can walk the docks, hand out your CV, and hope to God cross everything you've got, hoping you get a job, because the situation is you get to live on these 90-meter boats where these super rich people holiday. They hire 21 staff on our boat, for example, for 6 months, paid, fed, accommodated, anything you want. Someone has to test out the jet skis to make sure they work, right? It's really tough. They turn up for 5 days. You bring them an espresso coffee, so push that button, wait for the coffee, here you go. Oh, here's a €500 tip. Oh, damn, want another coffee, right? So really amazing place to be. So you can imagine the demand to get on these boats is just ridiculous. So any job they offer, you just go, yes, I will be there. Oh, a month's time, fantastic. I've got €20 to my name. This will be good. So being in that scenario, it kind of forced me to find work that would actually only be for 4 weeks. And being in a hostel with 30 other people in the same situation, ranging from other waitresses to chefs to engineers to deckhands, all overqualified to work in a coffee shop. Just basically going to our local cafe and saying, hey, we're all here, we're all hungry, we need money. Give me the shifts, let me pick the ones that I want to do, and then the others can turn up. You can negotiate your own pay rates. I just wanted the freedom to choose what I want. Great, let's do this. So we'd do a couple shifts, travel a bit, do a couple of shifts, travel a bit, and then ended up on the boat. So yeah, got back to Australia after about 8 months of doing that. Really hard to let go of the jet skis, but had to do it. And basically arrived back here and got a job at Colliers International, which is a property company. And within 6 months kind of had it off the ground, and my boss kind of sat me down and went, what the hell are you doing? You can't be doing this other thing while you're working here. And I was like, yeah, I was actually going to talk to you today. So it was a mutual, as I'm trying to say to be polite, get out and focus on one thing kind of conversation. So made the decision, and so June 12th, 2012, we actually launched the website, and here we are 2 years and a couple of months later.
Well, I've got a bunch of questions to unpack that, because that's pretty amazing. But the first question was, how big was the super yacht?
It was actually 90 meters.
90 meters.
But hang on, they didn't own one. They had 5, because you wouldn't want to sit next to somebody else on the boat, right? It's horrible.
Wow. Yeah. Well, it's a nice gig if you can get it, but clearly super competitive.
Very.
Amazing that you got that.
I had amazing Nespresso skills. That button pushing. It was tough.
Yeah. So you identified an opportunity, and you stuck with that. But I'm actually quite surprised that there weren't existing kind of services out there to kind of help people kind of find these types of casual opportunities. But
I think every kind of employment opportunity is done in so many different ways. I mean, there's Gumtree, there's word of mouth, Facebook, call 20 of your friends. Like, there's so many opportunities, but there's no streamlined way that's actually using the data in the best interest of both users.
So that insight, basically, instead of looking at this piecemeal, you basically said, hey, there's an opportunity here to kind of, a general solution we can apply. So one of the things about what you're doing is creating what's called a two-sided market. Yes. You need to have job seekers on the one hand, so that's one market, but you also have to have employers offering jobs. So How did you go about creating this two-sided market? Because that can be quite challenging and quite expensive if you don't do it properly.
It can be. In the beginning of time, in OneShift, I did a WordPress blog, and basically would get on the phones myself and just call businesses that I saw had posted jobs on Gumtree or Facebook or any other job site, and be like, hey, guess what? New website, OneShift, really cool. You've got a bartender job, let me fill it for you. You post it, you instantly get matches, / we have no job seekers, this will be fantastic, right? Great, tomorrow night, done. Call 20 of my friends. Oh my God, is anyone available? Quick, anyone. Oh, you know someone, fantastic. Oh, great, yeah, Becky, she's still setting up her profile, but she's here, she's ready, there you go. So basically just faking it till you make it, right? And I guess till you get that point, till you kind of figure out how it works, then you can really start developing a site to suit that. I spent every night after work at universities putting up posters with gaffer tape, and I thought I was being really smart by covering a whole wall, gaffer taping it, so no one else would be able to rip them off, but it just made it easier for them to stick over my posters. So I would head down to one end of the uni, completely finished, walk back and go, oh my God, completely covered. So, and then on the weekends did business cards to businesses and actually got them to sign up, except I made I had a blonde moment. I got the business cards printed with no website on there, so it was like, call Jen. And so that didn't help at all. Steep learning curve.
Yeah, well, you tried lots of different things. I mean, and I think that's a big part of this. Try lots of different things, see what works.
Yeah.
When things don't work, fail quickly.
Yes,
cheaply. Cheaply. Yes. If you're going to fail fast. What in all of your, I guess, experiments, was there, was there some early indication that kind of gave you a sense that, yeah, this is working if I invest, a bit more in this particular approach? I mean, how did you kind of, I guess, choose, which strategies look like they were most promising?
Yeah, definitely. I think by just trying a lot of things, you find out very quickly. The biggest learning I had was to basically just start something. It doesn't have to be perfect, just start moving. You'll quickly find out what is or isn't, and you can quickly pivot to suit. So we used to actually just focus on Gumtree and call their jobs and say, hey, what's up? Got a job? Fantastic, let's do this. And then we found that it's very hard to get someone who's not paying for a job placement or in a classifieds to actually move to $30, which is where we are now. So really finding that didn't work, and actually going out and face-to-face seeing businesses or getting PR or actually doing AdWords actually really helps to get that virality, which is a lot more cost effective than having to do a constant phone call kind of feed to somebody who's not paying.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, if they're used to paying nothing, $30 is a lot, although it's actually not that much. Yeah.
It's not, but you'd be surprised.
Yeah. Okay, that's really interesting. And so, how many businesses do you have on board now?
35,000 in Australia.
Yeah, wow. And you're also in New Zealand as well?
We're a couple of months old there, but what we found is it's a very different market to Australia. The kind of initial feel was, oh, it's so close, pretty much the same time zone, just, let's just make it happen. Went over there for the launch. We were fortunate enough to get some TV coverage because we have a really cool PR team. PS, thanks guys. And basically they it's strange. In Australia, businesses seem to be harder to get onto these new technological platforms. It's weird, it's different, it's out of their normal sort of process for recruitment, especially for a mum and dad operation or a small to medium business. But what we've found is in New Zealand, businesses are going, great, fantastic, let's try this. But then you've got job seekers going, well, casual part-time isn't really in our nature here. Like, they more focus on full-time and more steady work, and the HR laws are very different to Australia, so it's trying to work in with all those things and kind of figure out the cultural differences. So it's been a very different marketing campaign. It's been a very different approach to businesses and job seekers, which has been a very steep learning curve as well.
Yeah, so even two markets that I guess superficially seem to be quite similar, there are differences. Yeah.
So different, yeah.
Plans for expanding beyond New Zealand? I mean,
moving to the US in February, actually, which should be pretty cool. We went over 2 weeks ago, or 3 weeks ago now, and to suss it out, find some partners. We're actually going to find, we're having some meaningful conversations at the moment to actually find a partner, because we've been fortunate enough in Australia to kind of get the feel of what a strategic partner can bring to the table. When we were 5 months old in Australia, didn't even have a payment gateway, got approached by Program Integrated Workforce. I got an email from this old guy called Chris Sutherland going, hey, what's up? Let's catch up for a coffee. And I forwarded it to my dad. I'm like, some weird old man's asking me for coffee. Like, what's he want? He was like, oh, God, you're so silly. I'm like, thanks, Dad. And so we went for coffee, and he was like, yeah, no, we're really interested in this business. We're a labor hire business. Everything's kind of a manual process. And, we really want to streamline it. And we see the future of recruitment, there always being a demand in the online space. And we can do this quicker, faster, cost-effective, and really deliver for our businesses. I'm sitting there going, yeah, but why are we having coffee? Like, what's going on? And basically, he then said, look, we want to buy in. We're really interested. And we decided, look, we're just not ready. It's, you know, we're 5 months old. We haven't even got the ability for someone to put a credit card in. How are they possibly going to pay? We don't even know what this really is. So give us 6 months. And we made that decision early, which I think was the best decision we made. In October last year, they put $5 million on the table for a 27.5% equity stake. We also had some buyout options, but the reason that we actually took programs on board...
So just let's unpack that a little bit. So a conversation around a potential acquisition, you weren't ready at the time, you politely declined, but that's been essentially translated into an investment in the very...
Different businesses.
Yeah. Oh, different businesses.
Yes.
Okay. Didn't catch that, yeah.
Yeah, so similar people in the online recruitment space. So basically decided we're not ready for that. There's still so much potential for the business. So let's take on a strategic partner who will actually bring a lot of in-kind to the table. The value of that is we got access to 1.5 million job seekers in their database so quickly. We got 200 or access to 200 BDMs on the road in Australia and New Zealand. So not having those overheads, but getting the results out of that is fantastic. And being able to find ways that we can actually grow our business a lot quicker in ways that they're already paying for that we can just piggyback on really assisted us to do that.
Congratulations on the funding, by the way.
Thank you.
It's impressive. And obviously that's going to help you grow the business. Let's change tacks just a little bit. I'd like to talk about teams. So you're up to about, was it about 30, 30 employees? Obviously, you know, you're all about recruitment.
Yes.
I'm sure you have a lot of thoughts around, you know, team and, you know, culture. Share your thoughts on that.
Definitely. Culture is a huge thing for, I suppose, the OneShift office. It's not just about kind of where you've worked, what you've done, what your degree is. Personally, I haven't done a degree, so I don't look at, you know, what your education history is or anything like that. Basically look at where you've come from, from a work experience point of view, bring you in and say, okay, what's up? What's your favorite color? Who are you? What's going on? You know, tell me about you. Our CTO, basically I posted a job on Seek, got about 500 resumes and went, oh, this is going to take forever. Clicked the first one. Dale Fraser, fantastic. Oh yeah, you've been a CTO for the last 8 years. This could work. Come in for an interview. We got along like that. Fantastic, great. I think I found the one.
The first one out of 500.
Don't worry. When I said that to people, they laughed and went, "You're an idiot." So I interviewed another person just for good measure, but still hired the same one. He's been with us for more than a year. He's been amazing. If he's watching.
He's watching. It's on YouTube, by the way. So when you ask questions, remember this will be on YouTube later. So intelligent questions only.
That'll be interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, with team-wise, we actually use OneShift to actually ramp up our call center to suit what's kind of going on. So we'll fluctuate from about 30 to 40 at any one time. With our office, we allow for that sort of shared space so that we can do that.
So this is called eating your own dog food in the business, when you kind of use your own product or service.
Well, you need to know that it works. Otherwise, if you can't use it, how is another user going to use it without really knowing how the site works? So it's a great testament that we can actually do that, and allows us to actually be really dynamic to what's going on in the marketplace.
Mm. Have you found that there are particular verticals where you're gaining, you know, traction more quickly?
Yeah, I mean the services industry in particular, hospitality, retail, call centers, sales, promotions, cleaning. It's kind of really those industries that have transferable skills. I mean, if you can do, I don't know, if you can sell off a pamphlet, then you can get in a call center. If you can serve drinks over a bar, then you can be in retail. You know, it's customer service, it's anything face-to-face, all that sort of thing seems to be getting the most traction. But we do get odd jobs, like we had a male gigolo, DY. Guess the guy who filled the job, dead set, his name was Fabio28. He had a great shift.
There you go. There's all kinds of opportunities out there.
If you're looking.
Not me. Next question. Actually, are there any questions from the audience yet? We can probably start to take a few questions from the audience. So, Brett, the lovely Brett back there, is passing the microphone, and I'm so blinded I can't see if anyone's got any. Yeah. There must be. Oh, there's a question back there. Great.
My favorite color is yellow, if you're wondering. Hi.
Hi, Jen. Just sort of wondering around the 5 million at 27%. So that rates you at something around 15 million. Could you talk how you guys got to that sort of evaluation of your business in such an early stage?
Magic. No, sorry. Basically, when we took on investors and kind of talking around numbers and things like that, that's always, I suppose, the sticky point, and that's kind of where you can kind of set yourself up for failure for those next investments, right? You can position yourself too high, and then Series B or Series A or wherever you're putting that in the pipeline can be very difficult. So what we did was actually sit down with our partner and go, right, we know we're going to need X, which was 5. What percentage does that look like? So really trying to figure out what the business actually needs to get to where we need to be, and then working backwards with the percentage. And that's where we ended up with the 27.5%, which is quite a random number when you think about it.
Yeah, and it's worth, I think, mentioning that it's a very strategic investor too,
Yes,
right? Yeah.
yes.
So, I mean, there's investment that offers, funds, and there's investments that is funding and expertise and introductions and partners and all of that. So it's,
yeah, definitely. And they've got to see it on our board, see them every 3 months, but I can call them at any point in time and say, oh my God, this is happening, can you help? I'm going to Melbourne for meetings tomorrow, actually, and I was talking to one of them, I'm going to Linfox speaking to Robert, and he's like, oh, one of our account managers, like best friends and knows their kids or something random, great, we'll send them with you. So having that sort of warm entry can help you with a lot of things, as I'm sure you can all appreciate, rather than just hi, I'm here to sell to you, it's going to be fun. Like, it's a harder sell. Yeah.
So basically, when you're looking for investors, look for the smart money.
Yes.
With the
Definitely,
context.
Not someone that's just going to throw money on the table, walk away, and then go, well, hang on, why haven't you achieved any of these things? At least when you've got someone who's invested in the business as you are and has skin in the game, then they're going to make sure that you get to where you want to be as well. And it's a group effort, so it's important.
Question over there?
Hi, Jen. My name's Mike.
Hi, Mike.
Just a question. I think the online recruitment space is quite crowded.
Yes.
And I'm wondering about how you're going to, I guess, handle defensibility and kind of long-term competitive advantage, basically, because there's a lot of companies like Spot Jobs. There's obviously established market players. How do you see yourself continuing to dominate kind of online recruitment, even if it's in the niche you're in?
Industry, yeah, definitely. So personally, I think competition's good because it makes me run a lot faster, right? And basically, I think we're a very data-driven model. So we ask things, do you have tattoos? Do you have access to a vehicle? What postcode are you in? Your work history, and we can actually profile people. So to a point that businesses can actually recruit on the fact that, well, we even had a recruiter, I'm not going to say the name, but they actually said, we want people who've worked at Hooters because we know the training's fantastic. So we can actually profile that perfect persona for them, and they can just, stop laughing, Anne, huh? And they can profile those people and find the perfect candidate, so it's saving them time and money. We've filled positions within 27 minutes of businesses posting a job, calling candidates straight away and having someone serving coffee ready to go 27 minutes, which is insane. So having that unique selling point and really building our database, it's quite hard to quickly, I guess, copy, because we've had 2 and a bit years of actually collecting that information on people to actually give predictive data back to businesses so that they can make the best decision that they can as quickly as possible. At the end of the day, never say never. There's probably going to be a competitor that tries to, copy us. And the best, I guess, we can do is just do what we do really well and continue to evolve and remain innovative. Hope that answers your question. Cool.
Any more questions?
There's one just here.
Hi, Jen. Just wondering how much planning and sizing you might have done before you got started whilst in your role for 6 months.
I'm kind of a wing it kind of person, so there wasn't a lot of planning, to be honest. It was just put up a site. How are we going to do that? Just throw it together. I mean, I've made horrible mistakes, but it's actually gotten to me where
But that wasn't one of them, by the way.
No. Well, hopefully not. We'll see how that goes. But, I approached an American business online and said, hey, I want to build this amazing website. I want all the bells and whistles. I want this and this and this, and I want it yesterday. And they go, yeah, fantastic. Give us $5,000. I said, well, hang on. Do me some wireframes. How are you going to build it? And I'll pay you half up front and I'll give you the next half later. Yeah, no worries. We'll just quickly draw something fantastic. Sent them the money, of course. Never heard from them again, right? 2 years of give me my money back on email, and I got my money back, so that was a win. But lesson learned, right? Just you've got to figure. The only reason that I now go through every single contract and pretty much ask for everything up front and then I'll pay you kind of attitude is because I went through that and I lost $2,500 of my own money. So I think you can't plan, but you'll learn. You need to learn very quickly through all experiences. Failures are really a good thing. I don't get how people can be worried about failures, because no matter what you do, you end up in a different position to where you ever thought you would have. I know Alan was telling me a story earlier about how he did that, ended up at Stanford, ended up doing all these businesses, and ended up at Google, which is crazy.
Failure is wonderful, providing you learn
Yes,
from your failure.
that's good.
Please learn.
Very true. Yeah.
It's so true. So
but I mean, if you're going to get an investor on, they expect you to have a business plan. They expect all the numbers behind it and whatnot. So you do need to go through that process. We were just about 6 months too late of doing that, probably. Yeah.
as Jen said, there's a lot to be said for just doing it. If you've got an idea, whip up a basic prototype, get some feedback. It might not be actually
A fully working
a fully
one,
working
definitely.
product, but you'll at least be able to test the idea with potential investors or potential users and get your feedback and go from there.
So true. I mean, there's a lot of startups that actually come chat even to the team. I encourage everyone, if anyone wants any advice or help from not just me, because there's a lot of experts in our team and I'm not the expert, please email me and let me know and we'll introduce you to the team and they can help you in any way they can. But just literally getting a blog up there and manually doing it, you're going to get that concept out there, try and make it work, and you can actually then take that to someone and go, right, I need funding because look, this actually works. So it's actually very important to do that.
Yeah, and I've noticed you blog a bit yourself. I mean, how important, in fact, an interesting piece you were talking about essentially experience versus education, and they're not obviously mutually exclusive, but there's interesting that you didn't go to university yourself, but obviously hasn't stopped you from doing anything.
Trying not to. I was fortunate enough to get a scholarship for Bond University for law and property. I did about 3 semesters and went, this just isn't for me. I don't think university is everything, but I think it's important for, obviously you don't want a doctor who's being entrepreneurial on your body, right? Not a good idea. So it's relevant in cases and it suits some people, and people need to go through that sort of process. Even if you are starting your own business, every day you're educating yourself just in a different way to actually turning up to a lecturer or a TAFE class or whatever. So I think there's opportunities for both paths. Depends on you and what you need and what you think is important to you, but I think there's success down both paths and they shouldn't be shamed in any way.
And no doubt it's given you great insights into people and team too. I mean, given that you're in the recruitment business, any I guess tips for aspiring entrepreneurs and people in the audience that are thinking about starting companies and building their own teams? I mean, how to go about finding that first co-founder or your first employee?
I suppose just interviewing, getting a job up there, and I actually try and see as many people as possible because you don't realize what you actually need until you find it, as silly as that sounds. You think you found the best employee, the first person, until you interview the next one. You go, oh, hang on, that's a really good idea. Maybe we should be looking more from that perspective or more that background, and you actually get really cool ideas for your business because you're kind of spitballing how this could work, how this relationship would look, what the business could look like. So it's another educational avenue, I guess. So finding somebody who fits with your personality and your vision, and I suppose your work ethic is really important as well. Having somebody who doesn't believe in the concept, who is kind of a 9 to 5, and if you call me after 5:15, I'm not going to pick up and I'll be actually angry at you tomorrow. It just won't work in a startup. So having that sort of group feeling that everyone's on board, everyone's kind of feeling the same way, as silly as that sounds, it really will make the right team.
It doesn't sound silly at all. I mean, as the CEO or founder of a company, you're designing, your organization's culture, and it starts with you, and you're really the custodian of that culture. So everyone who joins the organization has to kind of,
I'm trying to enforce onesies, but they're just not on board. So it's not all like that.
The most important things, anyway.
Well.
Yeah. Any more questions? There must be more questions. Here's a question up front. Here comes the charming Brett.
I don't know if I got it.
Hey, you touch on how to find the perfect co-founder, and I don't think you had a tech background, and I don't think you neither had a co-founder. So how did you go? Because a lot of the time when you're in that kind of space, everyone's like, oh, but you need to go and find that perfect co-founder, and especially if you're in the non-tech. How did you go about that?
I think it's a lot of trust, and that can be a good thing or a bad thing. The reason why you generally have a tech co-founder is for them to actually build it or to deal with all the developers, or they handle that whole side of the business. And for me, I went to a little business of contractors who actually had built other websites for somebody that I knew, and they actually referred them. So it was kind of that third arm, or very close to kind of what I wanted, and I knew that they'd developed the product, hadn't stolen their money, which is a huge plus for me, and had gone down that path. Ever since then, we've always kind of had different contractors and then actually hired internally through once we had a CTO to handle that. So, and I have to trust my CTO to make the best technical decisions because, to be honest, I've got no clue, and you can only make the best decision you can with the information in front of you. I think that's really important to have the right team around you so that you can trust them to make those big business decisions on, let's recode the whole website in a different language. Why are we doing that? Because we need to. Well, you know, why? So you've got to actually go through that process and understand it to the best of your ability. And at the end of the day, you've got to, I guess, accept by yourself that you don't have to know everything and that you have to put things in other people's hands to get to the best possible result because they are the experts, right? And giving your team that freedom will help them evolve and, you know, experience things for themselves and educate themselves to make better decisions, and we can grow as a team then and as a business.
Can I do a follow-up question?
You may.
Okay, cool. And then when you are employed at CTO, like or like your first key staff, I guess, did you do like a different equity system with them, or just like pure salary and then keep going and growing the team?
Actually, we've just done pure salaries. Basically, depending on the employee and what department they're in and what they're doing, we do sort of commission structures and reward schemes and things like that. I mean, obviously, we've only been around for 2 years and a bit, so I was only employed in October, so there hasn't been a long time for people to really build that up and I suppose earn, long service leave or anything silly like that. But I think once you kind of get to the business to a structure that you can actually start playing with those things and giving other benefits. Like we had a Nintendo 64 which we had to remove because people kept focusing on that rather than actual work, or ping pong that it takes up every waking break that people have. It's very competitive now in the office, so it's finding other ways of incentivizing people to actually want to be there, want to enjoy the, we're in the, why am I even talking about this? We're at Google do it very well, right? So
we have lots of distractions too.
Yeah, trying to incentivize people in other ways I think is important, and then when you can bring in, I suppose, share options and things like that, definitely going down that path, because it's
once we get share options fixed in Australia.
Well, yeah, that too.
That's coming though. I think, look, depending on the amount of capital the company has, if you're cashed up or not cashed up, I mean, that's going to obviously, shape the answer to that question. I mean, look, if you don't have any money because you're really just starting out, you haven't raised $5 million, you're going to have to cut in, your co-founders with equity, and even your you don't have a choice, right? But if you have done some successful fundraising, then obviously cash or a mix of cash and equity becomes possible. So it does depend, and I've seen companies that grew from a single founder to very, very large, multi-$100 million company, and the founder still had all the equity. So that's the extreme version.
Yeah. But you want to get big, you've got, I suppose, there's different ways of doing it.
Yeah, but there are different ways, and there are companies like Google that relied heavily on equity as part of the
attracting the right staff.
Yeah. So just depends on your situation, your company's financial situation. Question over there.
Hi Jen, my name is Nikita. We talked this morning on Twitter.
Yay.
So my question is, a lot of entrepreneurs have lots of different ideas for businesses. So did you have ideas before this that you tried? And if you did or didn't, what made you kind of go all in for this one?
So I suppose my first business before this legitimate business was a babysitters club, right? And I kept getting asked to babysit, and obviously you can only be in one place at one time, right? So I would actually get my friends or other girls in the years at high school to actually go to those places, and I'd be like, right, give me $5 an hour that you get from that job, plus the parents have to give me a $20 joining fee. Sounds fine, but then you realize that the girls are they're getting below the minimum wage, right? So that was the first dodgy moment. The second dodgy moment was that there was all these white envelopes full of cash turning up to my front door while I was still living with my parents. And I realized that some envelopes were going missing, right? And I couldn't figure it out, and I was like, oh, I won't worry about it, I'll deal with that later. One night my dad pulls me into the kitchen and goes, sit down. I'm like, oh crap, what have I done? Puts all the piles of envelopes on the table and goes, drugs, prostitution, what have you been doing? And I'm like, oh my God, it's babysitting, how do we even go down that path? So it was a very interesting conversation. So that was definitely why that stopped that night, because my parents thought I was doing a drug ring or a prostitution ring. So this was a lot more legitimate, tax friendly, a lot of people being paid above the minimum wage. This is why I was all in on this one. Hope that answers your question.
Next.
Yeah, just had a bit of a question about the process of fundraising. Was that what was your sort of the revenue situation? Did you need to raise money? Did you talk to multiple investors? That sort of stuff.
Yeah, definitely. I guess it kind of all got started because we had that first weird email from Chris from Programmed, right? So wasn't really sure what was going on, wasn't aware myself on kind of what that process was. So my dad actually suggested that we get some corporate advisors around to actually handle that situation. So they actually handled anyone who approached us, had the conversations with us and them, and set the time frames of, right, this is kind of the process. I think when you're only that young, it's not as important to have the revenue skyrocketing. It was more about the potential, right? When you're only 5 months old, it's kind of like, do you have a payment gateway? Maybe you should think about putting a payment gateway in. So it's more those kind of things.
How are you getting revenue without a payment gateway?
We do now. It's okay.
This is pretty.
This is when we were 5 months old. So this is all like, what? So we got there in the end. So I guess that whole process, it's important to have like a middleman, like a real estate agent. You don't want to go buy $1 million house without a real estate agent being the middleman, otherwise it gets ugly, doesn't have the right process. So with this, it was getting the right process in place, making sure we were making the best decision for the business, and I guess just saying this is where we want to be. Being honest and upfront was really important. That's what I learned, because you can promise them the world, get a huge lump of money, but then you've actually got to deliver, which is scary, right? Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
I guess
Thanks.
related to that, I mean, did you actually need the capital at that point in time,
yes,
or was it more a matter of accelerating and growing more quickly?
More about acceleration and the in-kind that they could actually bring to the table. So, getting told, hey, we've got all these connections with all these amazing businesses. We're a public company. We've been around for, decades. We can get you in the front door of X, Y, Z, and we'll post all our jobs with you. And we've got so many job seekers in our database. Your eyes start going huge and going, oh, really? And we don't have to pay for it? Wow. It suddenly costs you Google spend. Sorry.
Oh. Diddums. That's okay. Google was useful.
You didn't notice. So.
Yeah. Cool. I'm still blinded up here, so I need help identifying. I'll leave one over here.
Hi. I just wanted to find out, just in terms of the industry domain, there's a lot of inspiration around various different competitors, what features they're doing. I can imagine that had some sort of influence as far as what the site has today to offer. How do you manage, I guess, a level of innovation about introducing new features and concepts when the industry itself is quite dynamic and competitive in itself?
That's actually a really good question. My CTO will say that, Genevieve, be quiet, stop adding things to the list and pivoting. My biggest problem is like, oh, we can do this, oh, shiny light over here, quick. So it's actually our biggest challenge is not trying to, I guess, make sure that we're ahead of the game. It's actually trying to fit everything in. As you talk to customers, I think that's where we actually find out a lot of the things that we need to do rather than watching out what everybody else is doing. I find that, at the end of the day, they're the ones paying for your product, so you want to make sure they're happy, right? So we actually ensure that we build into our whole service system to make sure that every time a job's closed, more than likely you'll be called within 24 to 48 hours from a customer service agent saying, hey, what's up? How did it go? Any feedback? Oh, you hired someone? Great. When do you next hire? What was your favorite feature? If blue sky, what would be the one thing you would want added? Things like that, so that we can kind of have the wish list, have the absolute musts, and have the, oh crap, we stuffed that up kind of thing, and make sure that we're hitting all those things to keep developing, and not just guessing what people want because our competitors have done it, and then just wasting time for the developers doing that and not actually working on the things that they need to be doing.
Right, thanks.
Just to clarify, did you say follow up with actual phone calls?
Yeah.
Phone calls?
Yeah.
Wow. So I'm hearing, strong element of customer service here, quite high touch really to actually.
Well, you need to be, otherwise,
So a lot of competitors wouldn't be doing that. I can tell you that now. You might get an email or something.
But if you send an email, half the time they kind of don't tell you the truth, or they tell you kind of a very high level. And if you start going, so you didn't like the blue on the front page, okay, so is it because it was a bit more turquoise, or was it because the home button was more to the left, or what was really wrong? And as silly as that sounds, it's trying to find out what they really mean, because trying to actually articulate what the actual problem is can be very different to what they put in that email.
And I'm sure you learn a lot from those follow-up calls too, right?
Yeah, you learn who hates you and who loves you very quickly.
Yeah. Excellent.
You've mentioned your dad a few times early on in your process. I was just wondering if you had other mentoring throughout that, or was your dad like your main mentoring, just for the advice you got in the early days?
Yeah.
Yes.
Great to meet you in the bathroom, by the way.
Yeah. Bathroom buddy.
In the safest possible way. So I'm one of 4 kids, and so I'm the 3rd youngest. So you can imagine there's a lot of attention to be spread out over 4 kids who are all kind of going very different directions. I've been very fortunate that my dad actually got involved about 5, right in the early days when it was kind of getting a bit, this is actually something, how do we do this? I've actually had other mentors.
Didn't you corner him on a flight to Melbourne? Yes, so she was quite sneaky. This is interesting, actually. You had an early version of your business plan, as I recall, and you were going down to Melbourne and you basically hit him up.
Did you stalk me?
I do my research.
So basically, I had the blog going. I was posting posters. I kind of had about 300 uni students and a couple of clubs going, and that was really where I could see it taking off. And trying to, get from there to, an actual fully built website with all the bells and whistles costs a lot of money. So I was talking to marketing things and how to get it out there, and they were very interested in the product and wanted to be involved, and realized that wasn't the best way. So I got my business plan together. And when I say business plan, it wasn't hey, this is the market size, this is what it could look like. So I didn't do it. I should have done the right numbers, but it didn't. It was more, I'm going to be the next Facebook. Do you want to be involved? Doesn't help anyone, right? So really sat down on a plane with him to Melbourne. We were going to visit my little brother who lives there, and basically we've got an hour and a half. How do you want to do this kind of thing, So we kind of argued for the first hour. Next half hour he was on board, and that's where we kind of kicked it off. But my dad's a big believer in not him always mentoring me, because when your dad's going, oh, you should do this, or you should do this, you kind of go, oh my God, Dad, be quiet. Like, it's a different sort of conversation when you're locking heads. But when you're speaking to other people who have, even if they aren't an expert in the industry, if you're just sounding it out, you can take it a much better way. So I've been really fortunate enough to have mentors like John Simons from Aussie Home Loans and things like that, who can give a very different perspective on things. And been fortunate enough to speak to his head of marketing and go, oh, we're trying to do this, 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 and he goes, oh, don't do that. Try this way. And it really opens your eyes, because at the end of the day, we don't know all the answers, and it's just trying to find the best possible way of doing it, and failing very quickly and hopefully very, very cheaply.
Can I quickly, how did you go about finding other mentors then? Just sorry.
You'd be surprised how many people are actually really eager to help. I actually help out a couple of startups as well, just literally going, oh, how do we do this? And I'm going, I don't know, speak to our marketing guy. He can help give you some ideas and help you put a plan together. Happy to help out any way we can. And you get the same sort of things with no matter what sort of size business. Obviously keeping in mind if you're the head of some multinational corporation and they're super busy and they've got 10,000 people lined up, it's very hard to get it. But generally people are really open to helping out and doing whatever they can to assist you. So get out there, approach, pitch your business, and be upfront and say, look, I'm not looking for money. I just need some help, some guidance, even if it's 15 minutes over coffee. I'd love your help.
Yeah, I'd probably just add to that it's also worth thinking about what's in it for the mentor too.
That's
I mean,
true.
a lot of mentors do want to give back, as Jen said, but they often get bombarded, yes, with lots and lots of requests for mentoring. So think about, do your homework. Like, this is someone who cares
Can
about.
actually,
and
give value.
So you're kind of pitching mentors as you would pitch, say, a potential investor. It's a different type of pitch, but you would think of it like that. It's like what's in it for the other party as well. Question back there.
Hi, Jen.
Hi, back there.
Hi. I was fortunate enough to meet you, I think, in month 6.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
but not in the bathroom, right?
No, it was
different scenario.
a New South Wales Business Chamber lunch at Parramatta. Yeah.
How you going?
Really good, really good. And it's been nice to watch your progression as your startup's grown and my startup's grown. I have to admit, I don't know if we had the conversation, but I actually set up a board of advisors. So they're not directors of our startup. They purely have an interest in just guiding us in their area of expertise. So we have a professor from university, we have an accountant, we have a business coach, we have and a seasoned investor who just did like a $100 million exit out of their business. So,
wow.
And it's funny, you can actually approach them. I do it via LinkedIn, it's the best, and just say, look, this is my idea. I can't pay you. You put that out there straight up front. But I'd really appreciate your advice. And you know, I have to admit, we only asked 5 and we got 5. So
fantastic.
You know, it's a good thing.
Well done.
Yeah.
I'd have to say that's remarkable success rate, because LinkedIn is one of those media where, again, you can get a lot of unsolicited requests. So I suspect you did a lot of homework targeting the individuals and had a pretty fine. I'm guessing.
I'd suggest that like all their tweet all their tweets, like all their posts. You know, that does help.
They call that stalking.
Yes.
Yeah.
Bloody will get you everywhere. You know?
I did have a question.
Good. That's good.
So we're at a stage now where you prove your concept and things like that, things to start to take off, and documentation becomes a really big thing. How did you find documenting your startup and then transferring your passion and energy into your staff to be able to scale at the same and not lose any of the quality about your startup?
Yeah, definitely. That's a really good question. I think from where we've gotten to today, it's been about empowering the other staff members. I don't walk around like the, hello, I'm the 23-year-old, let's do this kind of attitude. I'm the first person at the front door when somebody walks in, go, oh, do you want a glass of water? Fantastic, sit down, here you go. They actually play a game where they'll try and trick the person into thinking I'm the receptionist. And they go, oh my God, that ditzy receptionist, what's she done? Did she give you water? Oh, thank God. Oh, you want to sign the contract? Oh, don't worry, we'll just get the CEO, that's fine, just you wait. And they'll be like, yeah, that ditzy CEO, yeah, horrible, and then they'll get me in and they'll play a prank on this poor person. So I think it's important, I know, poor person, to give staff members the power to run their department as they would run their own business. Obviously there's boundaries, and I think if you're upfront and respectful and trust each other both ways, you can actually establish that. So getting that passion and driving them to actually hit their goals. It might not be the whole business's vision, but their goal might be, look, I want to increase monthly active users by 20%. Great, fantastic. How do we do it? How are you going to do this? And what do you want to do once you achieve that? I think that's been the best way that we've found that, and a lot of people up at weird hours at night to fix things and whatnot. So it's a good result for everyone.
There was a question back there.
Oh yeah, there's one there.
I just wanted to know, how did you market and grow your business within such a short period of time?
We actually found that online and PR has been our best success, and I'm not just saying that because our PR guys are here, I guess, but because when people are looking for jobs, it was very obvious that people Google or look for jobs online or talk to friends or whatever. It seems to be the closest point to a transaction. But that's our market, and that's how we found that worked, with the pairing of the credibility from PR. I think it's about understanding what your actual market is. If it's a two-sided market, then you've got to figure it out from both sides. But if you can go, right, what's the closest point to a transaction? Where are my pool of fish, and how am I going to lead them into where I want them to be? No worries.
Interesting metaphor. Pool of fish. You're fishing for customers.
Hi. Yep.
Now that you've gone from being a startup to a medium-sized business, and you mentioned you've got 30 to 40 people, can you talk about the breakdown of your staff and kind of where they sit and what they do?
Yeah, definitely. So we've got a CFO, an accountant, admin, community manager, marketing director, SEM, SEO. We've got developers, all in Sydney and a couple in Melbourne. CTO kind of moves between Melbourne and Sydney. UX, UI developers and designers. Gosh, who else is there? Team leaders in the dev teams. Then the account managers, team leaders in the call center, sales people. All those sort of usual culprits. We outsource things like PR. Marketing being like media buying and the creative and things like that for larger sort of scale things. But we find that you can do a lot yourselves, whether you're contacting. So, for example, a lot of the ads that we've kind of tested to do on YouTube and TV and things like that, we've actually approached producers directly and gone, right, we need a concept and we need this, and we want it to have this sort of result. And you can actually find that you can get a fraction of the cost, where it was 10 grand to produce versus 100 grand with a big media agency because they want to make it all pretty and all the bells and whistles and all that sort of thing. So I think if you have a way of wanting to do things, you can generally find a cheaper way of going direct yourself. Cool.
Yeah. Hi, Jen. How are you?
Hey.
Do you find sort of you got that initial sort of revenue model where they're paying you like a finder's fee? Do you sort of understand the space a little bit more? Are you finding sort of additional revenue sources, like the more data you collect, the more sort of avenues you find of, earning more revenue and sort of collecting data off clients or either job seekers, whatever it may be?
Yeah, definitely. So we started our payment model as a pay per contact. So you'd post your job, get your matches, and then you would just pay to speak to Becky, and then you'd pay to speak to Ben rather than get all your information. From dealing with that, we found that customers actually thought we were giving them fake information and just trying to get their money, right? So from learning about that and watching what they were doing, we then pivoted to a pay per post. So you just pay to access the database. We'll give you all the information, social media links, whatever you wanted, here you go. We found that that was actually the most transferable, I guess, for businesses about what to expect when they paid. From that, we've then been able to look down other avenues like training and, saying, hey, if you want to get an RSA, we're implementing that soon to actually upskill our database because we know, hey, you've applied for 3 jobs in retail, you've got a retail assistant background, and those 3 jobs have been management jobs, but you've been, knocked back each time. Why don't you do a diploma of management, and next time you apply for that role, or when you apply for that role now, you can say, hey, look, I'm enrolled in this. I'm, trying to educate myself so I can be, the next best retail manager that you're looking for. So as your model evolves and your data evolves, exactly, you can look at different revenue streams and to actually make your database more attractive to businesses who are your paying customers.
And more attractive to job seekers too, because you've got, again, two-sided market. As you learn more about the the job seekers, you can probably actually start to recommend roles that might take them in new directions depending on their interests, and conversely the businesses recommendations around how they can run their businesses more efficiently by perhaps, as you say, a role that was a little bit different to what they were thinking about. So,
exactly. We've actually just introduced yesterday the ability for job seekers to actually connect, so we know who knows who and why. So being able to verify that data as well for businesses, that you went to that high school, that you did that internship, that you worked at McDonald's, and then being able to actually refer friends, so businesses can go, oh, hey, can you introduce me to your friend Becky who worked with you at McDonald's, so they can use that data and that sort of social connecting to their best advantage.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a huge source of your competitive advantage as you grow too.
Thank you. Yeah. So can I LinkedIn you after this then?
Yeah, sure.
He said yes, right?
Yeah, of course. And it's on YouTube. Another one over there.
Hi, congratulations on where you've come to in this short time.
Thank
you mentioned that your investor partner business, they approached you after 5 months, very early days. You felt you weren't ready, put them off for a time.
Weren't ready for the first date.
Right. What attracted them at that point? When they first approached you?
Once they signed the deal.
I'm sure it's come out later.
Yes.
You probably didn't know at the time.
Didn't ask, was too worried to ask. Actually found out only a couple of months ago that that week we were in the AFR. We had a full-page article about us. We were also on a current affair within 2 nights of each other, so we got quite a bit of coverage. So that PR and that legitimacy really helps. And they saw us and went, right, this is a cool business. We should get in contact. So it's funny kind of when you look back and find out how it all came about. Yeah.
You've also won a number of business awards. I was just wondering how much those awards had kind of helped you in, acquire potential.
It's that credibility thing. Yeah, it's amazing how businesses will go, but I've never heard about you before, and you go, well, check out this article, look at these awards we've won, look at this, and it's not really, I guess, you win and suddenly your sales increase 500%. It's a tool that you can use to bring on larger, bigger, more credible businesses to grow your business.
Must be some questions out there. Scanning in the audience. Yep, there was one.
More.
I think admire the vision front of mind that you had, and you stick with it.
Thank you.
Any challenges that you had, like when you got people on board, or when you got people trying to help you that were trying to steer you in different direction, and what did you do? Anything that you took on board, or anything they say, no, sorry, I appreciate your point, but this is where I'm going, and like your journey in that, I think that will be quite interesting.
happens every day. I think the challenge is that you've got so many heads around a table. So, for example, our board is a public company. So one of my biggest concerns before we kind of signed that deal was they're an old school public company who might kind of instill their big business sort of values in ours, and how are we going to be nimble, quick, and run our day-to-day business. I don't want them to tell me I'm photocopying too many pieces of paper. Not that I do, but I want to run the businesses as I want to run it. And we were very fortunate enough to have people who around the table who are very much right. That's fantastic, you're doing it that way. Here's a tip, you can be 5 seconds quicker if you do it like this. So really setting the expectations up front on how you want to do things, so that when you do have to go, look, this actually isn't going to work because of X, Y, Z, instead of being, I guess, abrupt and going, no, this is my idea, back off. I think it really brings, I guess, the conversation further, because I don't know everything, and you don't know all the different angles, and it's important to take things on board and actually see it from a different angle, because you never know what's around the corner. And something that you did, like I never thought we'd be doing connections and things like that back in the beginning months. I didn't even know we'd be allowing businesses and job seekers to review each other or anything like that, and that's only come out of discussions and arguments and things like that actually gets you to a much better place. So I think you've just got to be tough-skinned and accept the pushbacks and the disputes and things like that, but be open and willing to actually go through the process, so that you're not, putting your blinkers on, going, it must be this, and that's all that it can be. Yeah. So it was probably really echoey when I did that.
And it is a balance between having that really strong vision for what you want, your company to be, but also being flexible and learning as you go along. And you absolutely have to take advantage of those learnings and from customers and users.
You would be surprised how many times people keep going, but we could do a dating website on the side. Why?
Yeah.
But we'll listen to it.
Exactly. Completely different market. Yeah.
Yeah.
We've got time for one more question from the audience.
Lucky last. Kind of lucky second last.
No, far right. You got up there first.
How much money did you intend to raise when you first started your initial capital raising?
I didn't know that people would put $5 million into a startup, so we'll put it that way. Sorry, it's really bad.
So you just, $5 million was just, that's the first amount?
No, that was completely out of my mind. I did not think that people would invest that kind of money into startups. I was thinking, oh yeah, they'll give us like $100,000. We'll be sweet. This will be so easy. Next minute, it was in those sort of levels. The takeout values were obviously a lot different to that. There's a big gap, but I guess it's, I suppose, being in the environment and learning that sort of experience and finding out what you actually need just from really going through the processes of actually being there. Every kind of plan we put together, you're always 3 times, or you're needing 3 times more money, needing 3 times amount of time to actually achieve it in. So it doesn't matter how many plans we put together to actually say this is how much we'll need. We've always needed more.
Jen was clearly very persuasive, though. More persuasive than she said.
I only asked that because there was an article saying in 2011 that
30 million? Yeah, that was not quoted. You'd
Not
be
right?
surprised how many times I get asked about that. I'm like, I wasn't even quoted in that article. Actually, I might have been, but I didn't quote that statement.
All right, that changes everything then.
I've got one question, and if you're about 2 years in, but if you could do it all over again, what's the one thing you would do differently, if in fact there is one thing?
I think just trying a lot of things a lot more quicker. As silly as that sounds, it's, you start up and kind of go, I just need to do this one thing, it's going to revolutionize the business. But there's never just that one thing. You've got to be doing 10 different things. So having a lot of fingers in a lot of different pies is probably the thing I would do differently. Try and test out a lot more things simultaneously, so that you can move a lot quicker and, I suppose, develop a lot quicker as well.
That's great advice. Basically, try lots of things. Be agile, and if you do fail, fail quickly.
And smile when you do it.
Thank you, Jen, for joining us. It's been fantastic.
Great, thank you.
Now the hangout is over, but the beverage